The shelves aren't empty yet, but the people who stock them are already acting like they will be. Most of what you're seeing on the news right now is noise. Cameras chasing conflict, analysts arguing about strategy. But underneath all of that, quieter and far more consequential, the physical infrastructure that moves goods from origin to your door is already showing cracks. Nobody is covering that story. Nobody is interviewing warehouse managers or freight coordinators or regional supply administrators. But those are exactly the people whose behavior should have your full attention right now. I got a call recently, not from a fringe voice, not from someone with an agenda or something to sell, from someone I've known personally for years, a person who works inside a regional emergency supply facility, not a retail distribution center, a government-backed inventory buffer, the kind of place that exists specifically to hold critical supplies for an entire state population when normal channels fail. Most people don't know these facilities exist. They're not meant to be visible. This person called me and said something quiet is happening. Not the dramatic kind of quiet, not alarms and announcements. The other kind. The kind where people move fast and don't explain why. Where government contractors arrive with clipboards. Where pallets, not boxes, pallets of essential emergency supplies are being pulled out and relocated at a pace they hadn't witnessed in more than 2 decades on the job. No explanation given, no announcement made. Just movement. And the gut feeling from someone with 20+ years inside that system? Move now. I hung up, grabbed my keys, and went straight to the store. I run supply audits on my own stockpiles several times a year. Usually it's methodical and unremarkable. Check dates, fill gaps, move on. This time felt different because the call wasn't the only signal. What people inside logistics networks are quietly saying, combined with what supply chain data is already showing if you know how to read it, points to a specific window, one that closes around April. After that point, certain essential categories of goods are either going to be unavailable or priced so far beyond normal that for many families the conversation becomes academic. So today, I'm walking you through exactly what I bought, why I prioritized it, and what you should be doing right now if you're working with limited time or limited money. Everything is ranked by urgency. The most critical category comes first. No filler, no vague advice. Let's move. Category 1. Cash and financial access. Do not wait until the end of this video to act on this one. Go pull physical cash out of your bank today. Not this weekend, today. Here's what most people fundamentally misunderstand about how banking behaves under pressure. Banks don't wait for a confirmed crisis to begin restricting withdrawals. They act preemptively. The moment public confidence starts to waver, the moment people start talking about a potential problem, banks begin quietly throttling how much cash customers can access. It's not malicious, it's institutional self-preservation, and it happens fast. We watched exactly this pattern in March of 2020. We watched a version of it during the financial collapse in 2008. In both cases, the people who already had cash on hand were functional. The people who waited found themselves staring at ATM limits, closed branches, and a balance they could see but not touch. And that's assuming the power is still running. Your debit card needs a working terminal. Your phone payment needs a live network. Your digital balance needs an unbroken chain of infrastructure connecting you to your money. Remove one link from that chain, one substation, one cell tower, one overloaded network, and your entire checking account becomes a number on a screen you cannot reach, cannot spend, cannot use to feed your family. Think about that concretely. You're at a grocery store. Power has been intermittent for 2 days. The generator is keeping food cold, but not the card readers. The cashier needs cash. What do you have on you right now? A neighbor of mine went through the Texas freeze in 2021. Smart, capable person, not someone you'd call unprepared. He had several $1,000s sitting in his checking account and a young child who needed formula. For 4 days without consistent power, every ATM in range was either offline or empty, and every open store was operating cash only. He came to me. I handed him cash I'd set aside months before that storm was ever a forecast. That experience rewired how he thinks about money permanently. When you pull your cash, pull it in small denominations: ones, fives, tens, 20s, a few 50s if you want, but go easy on hundreds. In a disrupted economy, a $100 bill is nearly useless for transactions under 50 because nobody has change and nobody wants to give it. Small bills are functional currency. They give you the ability to make exact trades, buy specific amounts, do clean transactions without requiring the other person to break anything. Pull the cash today. Category 1, done. Category 2, power and communications. Right after that call and before my grocery run, I walked through my house and audited every power-related device I own. What I found was genuinely embarrassing for someone who talks about this stuff professionally. My main power station was sitting under half charge, my backup communications radio was completely dead, and the hand crank emergency radio, the one I've recommended to people in dozens of videos, had corroded batteries. Looked functional from the outside, completely useless on the inside. Now imagine if the grid had gone down that same night instead of days later. No usable power, no communication tools, no way to assess whether an outage was a 2-hour inconvenience or a 2-week emergency, no way to reach family members not in the house, no way to monitor conditions beyond my front door. Entirely dependent on whatever charge remained on my phone, which for most of us is somewhere between 3 and 5 hours of real use. 5 hours. Then silence. Someone in our community who lived through the Puerto Rico blackout after Hurricane Maria told me something I haven't been able to shake. He said the storm itself wasn't what broke people psychologically. Day 3 was. Day 3 was when his phone finally went dark and the information stopped completely. He didn't know if aid was coming. He didn't know if his mother across town was alive and unhurt. Just silence. Total informational void. He described it as a psychological darkness that was heavier than the physical one. Information is oxygen during a crisis. You need to know what's happening. You need to know whether to stay or move. You need to know whether what you're experiencing is local or widespread. Without that, you're not just uncomfortable, you're making blind decisions with serious consequences. What you should have charged and verified right now: your primary power banker station, your backup power bank, any battery-powered or hand-crank emergency radio, your handheld flashlights, and any battery caches you keep for those devices. Do not assume things are charged. Plug them in, test them, discover the problems now while there's time to fix them. What about longer-term power? A generator changes the conversation significantly. For those who don't have one, a quality solar charging setup, panel plus battery station, covers communication devices, lights, and small medical equipment. If you have medical equipment that requires power, this isn't optional. It's the most critical purchase on your list right now. Are you starting to see a pattern in the things we haven't prioritized? Good. Keep that question in your head because we're going to revisit it. Category 3, the supply window itself. There's a specific dynamic happening in global supply chains right now that most people are not tracking because it doesn't make for exciting footage. It's logistical, it's financial, and it moves slowly enough to look like nothing until suddenly it isn't. Here's the short version. When regional conflicts create shipping disruptions, the effects on consumer goods don't arrive immediately. There's a lag. Ships already at sea complete their routes. Warehouses draw down existing inventory. Retailers run promotions to move product. The shelves look fine while the pipeline behind them is already compromised. That lag is closing. The gap between what's already in the system and what's coming behind it is narrowing. Add to that the compounding effect of tariff escalations on imported goods across dozens of categories, and the pricing math begins to shift fast. Buying now, with current prices, with current availability, is not a preparedness decision in isolation. It's a financial decision. The cost of waiting is already measurable in price increases on categories that move first. Shelf-stable proteins, cooking oils, grains, certain medical supplies, and fuel-adjacent products. This is not a prediction of apocalypse, it is a description of a logistical compression that has documented precedent and is already in motion. Acting now costs a fraction of what acting late will cost you. Category 4. Food storage. Let me walk you through what I actually bought and why each category matters. Grains first. Rice, oats, pasta, cornmeal. These are the caloric backbone of long-term food storage, calorie-dense, shelf-stable, versatile, and consistently the first category to experience both price spikes and availability gaps when supply chains compress. I buy in bulk bags when I can, and I store in food-grade buckets with Gamma Seal lids. I label everything with the purchase date and the expected use date. Fats second. Cooking oil is the most underestimated item in food storage. It's calorie-dense in a way that's difficult to replicate with other shelf-stable items, and it has a shorter effective shelf life than most people account for. Olive oil, coconut oil, and avocado oil all store reasonably well in cool, dark conditions. I also keep ghee, which has a significantly longer shelf life than most liquid oils and requires no refrigeration once sealed. Proteins third. Canned fish, canned meat, dried beans, lentils, and a reasonable quantity of freeze-dried protein. Beans and lentils are particularly efficient, cheap, calorie-dense, high in protein and fiber, and shelf-stable for years when stored properly. Canned fish, sardines, tuna, mackerel, salmon, gives you complete protein, healthy fats, and variety. One thing I want to flag specifically here, watch shrinkflation when you're counting supplies. The can of tuna that used to hold 6 ounces now frequently holds 4 or 4.5. If you're counting servings based on old assumptions, you will underestimate how much you actually have. Count actual units, read actual labels, and plan based on current package sizes, not memory. Variety matters more than most people give it credit for. The problem with a homogeneous stockpile is not nutritional, it's psychological. Palate fatigue is real, and it degrades morale faster than people expect. A modest investment in variety, different grain types, different protein sources, condiments, hot sauce, spices, comfort items, pays significant dividends in the mental and emotional quality of an extended difficult period. Category 5. Water storage and purification. 1 gallon per person per day is the minimum baseline. That covers drinking and basic cooking. Sanitation needs, hygiene needs, additional cooking water, those push the real requirements significantly higher. 2 gallons per person per day is a more honest target for actual functional living. If you're just starting your water storage, the most practical starting point is filling cleaned and food-safe containers, 1-gallon jugs, 5-gallon containers with tight-fitting lids, and rotating them every 6 months. Don't overthink the container type, just start. Something beats nothing by a wide margin. For purification, my primary tool is a gravity-fed filter system. No power required, no pumping, no chemicals. Fill the top chamber, let it work, drink from the bottom. The primary filters last for thousands of gallons before replacement. It handles well water, river water, lake water, and compromised tap water. That range of source versatility matters significantly more in a real scenario than most people anticipate. As backup, water purification tablets. Lightweight, long shelf life, inexpensive, and capable of treating large volumes quickly. They have a distinct taste that some people find unpleasant, but that is a minor inconvenience compared to the alternative. Keep them in every bag, every kit, and every vehicle. What many people don't think about until it's too late is secondary sources. Hot water heaters typically hold 40 to 80 gallons of potable water. Toilet tanks, not bowls, hold another few gallons. Knowing these exist and knowing how to access them without a functioning municipal connection is preparation that costs nothing and requires only about 10 minutes of research to understand. Category 6. Sanitation. This category gets skipped in almost every casual preparedness conversation because it's uncomfortable to think about and not as visually compelling as food or gear. That is a mistake. Municipal sanitation services are far more fragile than most residents understand.
Garbage collection, sewage treatment, and water pressure maintenance all depend on functioning power and operational staffing. In a significant disruption, these services stop quickly. Days, not weeks. What does that actually mean practically? Trash accumulates fast when you're home for extended periods, using more disposable goods than normal. Sanitation bags, dedicated outdoor waste containers, and a plan for waste management before services stop is not dramatic, it's basic logistics. The same principle applies to human waste. If sewage infrastructure loses pressure or becomes compromised, you need an alternative. A basic camping toilet, heavy-duty waste bags with absorbent powder, and a private designated location covers this need completely at low cost. It is not a glamorous preparedness item. It is, however, a critical one. Maintain a basic sanitation kit. Hand sanitizer, liquid soap with closed containers, disposable gloves, heavy-duty garbage bags, waste powder. This matters for health as much as comfort. Waterborne illness spreads fast in disrupted conditions, and it is the thing that historically causes more secondary harm than the primary event itself. Category 7.
Fuel. The single most important rule about fuel, and the one most people violate consistently: keep your tank full. Not half, full. Here's the reason this matters so much and why people get caught by it every single time. Every gas station in your area runs on electricity, every pump, every card reader, every display screen. In a grid-down situation, every gas station near you goes offline simultaneously unless it has its own backup generator, which most don't. And the stations that do have generators run out of fuel themselves within hours when every car in a 50-mile radius converges on them at once. If your tank is full when the disruption begins, you have options. You can drive, you can leave, you can reach family, you can reach resources. If your tank is at a quarter or less when things go sideways, you are immediately constrained in every decision that follows. Beyond your vehicle, stored fuel for generators or other equipment requires treatment for long-term stability. Standard gasoline degrades meaningfully within 90 days without additive treatment. Fuel stabilizer, added at the right ratio for expected storage duration, extends that window to a year or more. Rotate your stored fuel regularly, use it in your vehicle, and replace it to maintain freshness. Treat fuel storage as a living part of your preparedness system, not a one-time setup. Category 8. Home security. I want to be precise about how I think about home security in this context, because this category goes sideways quickly into territory that isn't actually useful. What matters for preparedness-level security is not tactical gear or confrontation capability. It is deterrence and early warning. The goal is to not be an easy target and to have time to respond before anything reaches a critical point. A few specific things that matter here. Exterior lighting is one of the highest value deterrents available. Motion-activated lights connected to battery power or solar backup mean they function whether or not the grid is running. Darkness creates opportunity for people who want to move unnoticed. Removing that darkness removes a significant advantage. Solid deadbolts and door reinforcement are cheap and highly effective. A door that takes 30 seconds to breach instead of 5 is, in the real world, frequently enough to cause someone to simply move on. Battery-operated alarms, window sensors, door sensors, motion alerts give you early warning without requiring any grid connection. They run for months on standard batteries. A simple perimeter of notice around your home means you are never surprised, and not being surprised gives you time, and time gives you choices. Category 9. Medical preparedness. Let me be specific rather than general here, because general advice on this topic is close to useless. The two categories that matter most for immediate preparedness are prescription medication supply and a complete current first aid kit. On prescriptions, if you or anyone in your household takes daily medication, having a 30-day buffer is baseline. Some insurance policies allow early refills. Call your pharmacy today and ask directly. If early refill isn't available through insurance,
Ask your doctor directly for a short supply for documented emergency preparedness purposes. Most physicians will accommodate this request, particularly for maintenance medications. A 30-day buffer does not require any special explanation. It is simply prudent. On antibiotics, having a physician-prescribed emergency antibiotic supply on hand is a real option available to many people and worth pursuing through legitimate medical channels. Talk to your doctor. Ask specifically. Your first aid kit should be physically verified against its contents list, not assumed complete based on memory. Bandages expire, medications degrade, supplies get used and not replaced. Open the kit. Check everything. Replace what's missing or expired. Do it today. Category 10, Vehicle Readiness. Your vehicle is one of your most critical pieces of preparedness equipment because it determines your mobility, your ability to leave if staying is no longer viable. Mobility is optionality. Optionality is survival margin. A vehicle that doesn't start in a crisis is not transportation. It's a large, expensive obstacle. The 3 most common failure points: battery condition, tire integrity, and fuel level. Check all 3 this week. Have your battery load tested at any auto parts store. Most do it for free. Check tire pressure, including the spare. Does your spare even hold air right now? Most people cannot honestly answer that question.
Keep a basic emergency kit in your trunk that you have physically verified. Jumper cables, tow strap, basic tool kit, small quantities of motor oil and coolant, and paper maps of your state and the surrounding region. Paper maps require no signal, no battery, no satellite connection. They work in every condition, in every vehicle, regardless of what infrastructure is functioning. Know your routes before you need them. If you had to reach a family member or a predetermined meeting point right now without using major highways, could you do it? Do you know which roads flood in heavy rain, which bridges are low capacity, which areas you'd want to avoid in a disrupted environment? Driving a backup route once on a calm weekend afternoon is a preparation step that costs one afternoon and nothing else. Category 11, Communications Planning. If your family became separated during a major event and cell service was down or overloaded, what is the plan? This feels outdated, like something from a preparedness guide written before smartphones existed. But the absence of this plan causes real harm consistently in real disasters. Cell networks don't fail because the technology is bad. They fail because 1,000 people trying to make calls at the same moment overwhelms the capacity of towers that were never designed for that load. Text messages sometimes succeed when calls fail because texts require less sustained connection, but sometimes neither works reliably. 2 predetermined meeting points, one close to home, one further out, mean your family doesn't need cell service to find each other. It means there's a plan that doesn't require any infrastructure to execute. Knowing the plan before the need arrives means you don't freeze when communications go down. You just execute what you already decided. Handheld two-way radios are undervalued by most people in this space. A good pair costs under $50, has a range of several miles, and operates completely independent of any network, tower, or infrastructure. They work when everything else doesn't. Keep a pair charged and one in each vehicle. Category 12, Go bags and get home bags. This is the last item on the operational checklist, and the one where I'll be the most direct about my own failures. Verify your bags tonight. Not mentally, not by remembering what you put in them. Physically. Unzip the bag, put everything on the floor in front of you, and go through it with your hands. I'll tell you honestly, because I've always tried to be straight with you, I had raided my get-home bag twice in recent weeks for video production purposes and hadn't replaced what I'd taken. When my wife found a granola bar that was over a year past its use date, she wasn't impressed. She was right. A bag you haven't verified is not a get-home bag. It's just a bag. And that distinction matters far more than it sounds like it should. A known good bag gives you real capability. An unverified bag gives you false confidence. And false confidence in a crisis is genuinely more dangerous than having nothing. If you have nothing, you know you have nothing. You improvise immediately. You're in problem-solving mode from the start. But if you believe you have a functional bag when you don't, you waste critical time reaching for things that aren't there before you realize your actual situation. Multiple people I've spoken with who evacuated during West Coast wildfires in recent years said the consistent failure wasn't that they didn't have bags. Most of them did. The failure was that the bags weren't verified. Dead flashlight batteries, expired purification tablets, items that had been borrowed for other purposes and never returned. One person drove 2 hours through heavy smoke to his evacuation point, opened his bag, and found his water filter missing. He'd taken it out for a camping trip 6 months earlier. One camping trip, one missing item in the middle of an active evacuation. Dump the bag, check every item, verify food dates, confirm power banks are charged, make sure batteries are fresh, go through the first aid kit completely, confirm the water purification gear is not expired, make sure important documents, copies not originals, are included. Check everything, every bag, every time. Set a deadline of April 1st for completing this, not because April 1st carries some guaranteed catastrophe, but because the cost of having a verified ready bag when nothing happens is nothing. The cost of reaching into an unverified bag when something does happen and finding it empty, that's a conversation you never want to have with yourself. You've stayed this far, which tells me you're actually serious about this. Hit like and subscribe to my channel so you don't miss what we cover next. Let me bring it all together before we close. I want to be clear about what today has and hasn't been. It hasn't been an attempt to manufacture fear.
Fear without direction is just anxiety. And anxiety doesn't fill stockpiles. Anxiety doesn't pull cash. Anxiety doesn't check tire pressure or charge power banks. Direction does. Concrete steps do. That's the entire point of what I've shared today. 12 categories. Let me walk through all of them one final time. Write it down. Send it to someone who needs it. 1. Cash and financial liquidity. Pull physical cash today. Small denominations. Don't wait. 2. Power and communications. Charge everything. Verify everything. Replace corroded batteries and dead power banks now while stores are stocked and time exists. 3. The supply window. The signals are already in the data. Buying now at current prices is a financial decision with real, measurable returns. 4. Food storage specifics. Grains, fats, proteins, variety. Count actual units based on current package sizes. Don't get misled by shrinkflation. 5. Water storage and purification. 2 gallons per person per day as a realistic target. Gravity filter as your primary tool. Tablets as backup in every kit. 6. Sanitation. Waste management. Human waste contingency. Basic sanitation supplies. Municipal services stop faster than residents expect. 7. Fuel. Full tank at all times. Treated and stored fuel for equipment. Know that grid failure equals gas station failure. 8. Home security. Motion lighting, door reinforcement, battery-operated perimeter sensors. Deterrence and early warning, not confrontation. 9. Medical preparedness. Prescription buffer. Emergency antibiotics through legitimate medical channels. Verified current first aid kit. 10. Vehicle and transportation readiness. Battery tested. Tires checked, including spare. Paper maps in the vehicle. Backup routes identified and practiced. 11. Communications plan. 2 meeting points, 2-way radios. A plan that doesn't depend on cell networks to function. 12. Go bags and get home bags. Physically dump and verify every bag in your household tonight. 12 categories. 12 areas where acting now costs a fraction of what not acting will cost you later. The people who navigate difficult events intact, not just physically, but mentally, emotionally, relationally, are not the people with the most expensive gear. They are the people who made steady, thoughtful, consistent decisions before the moment of pressure arrived. They didn't wait to confirm that things were going to get serious. They acted while acting was easy and inexpensive. That's the choice you're making right now by engaging with this seriously.
Pick one thing from this list right now, just one, and do it today. Pull the cash, charge the power banks, verify the bags, fill the gas cans. One action today is worth more than a perfect plan that never gets started. That's what this is really about. Not fear, not worst-case thinking, just the quiet confidence that comes from knowing you took care of the people who depend on you before they needed you to.